Hi guys, a lot of stuff is happening in the blogging space and I want to talk a bit about the future of niche sites or authority sites or whatever you want to call what we do. And we got a lot of ground to cover because a lot of things are happening around ad networks, affiliate, we have AI writers, we have cookies going away, and there's just so much stuff going on and more competition in the space. So I want to try and look a little bit into the future and see what I think the blogging space looks like in 2, 3, 5 years. Grab your favorite drink and find a comfortable chair because I got a lot of stuff to share with you guys. So let's start by talking about ad networks and the RPMs, the earnings we see with ads on our sites. So we see these go up year after year. Check the curve here from Ezoic. That's the average numbers across all the sites that are using Ezoic. A quick little note here, if you are wondering why this graph is cutting off at the end, it's because we just started on a new year. So every year in January, the ad rates will drop significantly. They will also do that at the end of Q1, 2, 3. So after the first 3 months, after the first 6 months, and after the first 9 months, we always see a dip. So the curve goes something like this, whoop, 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 and then it starts all over again the next year. This has been a really good trend for a long time. And you'll also see how it had a dip during COVID, when COVID just hit. And then COVID was a really good thing when we look at these ad rates. And also this year so far has been better than the previous year. So that's just amazing to see. So we'll see in a bit how that plays into more competition and stuff. But overall, the future looks really bright when we look at the ad rates. And that's also why we see more and more folks moving away from affiliate or just moving heavier into what we typically call informational, educational type content. Lighter content that's not really trying to sell anything, just trying to help the user solve a problem or something like that. And we see the exact same thing with Mediavine and AdThrive. And you might be wondering why we always talk about these three, Ezoic, Mediavine, and AdThrive. And it's just because the market sort of sorted itself out over time as they usually do with these things. And now we have these big players left. And for the bigger sites, we have these two big ad networks, Mediavine and AdThrive. And I have another video about that, so you can check that here if you want to see more about that. In this video, I also share some things about AdThrive Premium. When you reach a certain size, you can put all your sites on there. So that's typically a really good place to be and very comparable to Mediavine, unless you have way over 1 million page views per month, because then it might make sense to move over to Mediavine at this point now, because they will give you a bigger share of the revenue. So you can go from 25% that you need to give to the ad network to 20 to even 15% as you grow bigger. So there's that. But I talk more about that in that video, so check the link in the description if you want to know more about Mediavine versus AdThrive. But really what we've been seeing over the last couple of years is even more money and faster moving from offline advertising to digital ad spend. And that of course means more money into our pockets as we take a share of that. So now let's move on to talk about competition in the blogging space, because more and more folks have found out that this model that we work with here with underserved topics and just going after stuff that's easier to rank for with the new site, that this is actually a very strong and good and solid model. So 3, 5, 7 years ago, this was very easy to find these underserved topics, and I've been doing this for a decade. I always went after these easy to rank for keywords, and it's just harder these days to find these topics that you can rank for quickly, because most of the topics has been covered somehow by another site, or they will eventually. So the thing is that today we need to get better at topic research. You might need to dive a little deeper than just going in with Google autocomplete and typing in are and is and can and these basic questions before the words that you want to dive into or the keywords you want to find topics around. So of course I go deep into this in my course. I have many hours where I show you all my tactics there, so I don't want to go into detail on that here. But you definitely need to ramp up your topic research game, because it is getting harder to find these underserved topics. I see that across all my sites. It just takes longer. But you should see this as something that's a good challenge, because I think it's really fun to dig up these little diamonds, or what do you want to call them. Whenever I'm looking for topics, I think it's a lot of fun to find a new cluster of topics, find a new direction for my sites, and see where I can find topics that nobody wrote about, because they are definitely still out there. You just need the right tactics to do that. And of course, there's also the option of creating better content. Just create something that's better, because eventually you'll probably outrank your competition unless they are much bigger sites. You'll just rank slower. And that's why I try to keep you on this lane of underserved topics, because when you get good at that, it's just so much faster and easier to rank your site, especially if it's a new site. So let's try and compare these two. So we have better ad rates, we make more with the traffic that we have from ads, but we get less traffic, because if you write on a topic, there's a big chance that somebody wrote about those subheadings and have individual articles about everything you want to go over. So you're not going to grab as much traffic. So less traffic, but we make more with the traffic that we get. So you might be wondering if this equals each other out, and I don't think it does. I still think the less traffic you get due to the more competition in the space doesn't really even out the higher RPMs. So it's still overall not as good as it was. So you might need to create more content in order to make the same amount of money. But as I've said a couple of times, if you take the whole blogging business model as it is right now and as it has existed for this, just say the last 3, 5, 7 years going after underserved topics, I would still say, as I've said a couple of times, if you cut that in half, let's say you can just get half the traffic that you used to and make the same amount of money per 1,000 page views, I would still say the business model we have here is by far the best I've seen online or anywhere for that matter. I've done e-commerce, I've done some drop shipping, I've done a lot of stuff, I've done SEO consulting and a lot of different things, and this is just a crazy good business right now, and it's almost too good, and that's also why more people are rushing into it. So don't get too frustrated, because there's a lot of margin here, and it doesn't matter too much if there are more competition. It'll be several years from now, but we'll come back to that before I think it's getting really hard to do what we do here. So now let's talk about affiliate earnings, because a lot of us come from that world and a lot of us make some additional income from our sites, and some of us even make the most of our income from affiliate. And how does that look? So you might be thinking, like most people, that Amazon is by far the biggest. But I got some good data from Tyler Bishop from Ezoic, the CMO over there. He shared some really good data with me recently. And as you can see here on this chart here, Amazon is not the only kid in the game. There's definitely other players. And as you probably know, Amazon is not my biggest affiliate network. I work much more with Commission Junction and ShareSale. Those are the two that I use the most. So let's just quickly go over some numbers here. You see Awin here, Commission Junction, Affiliate Window, Impact, Walmart. And if you don't know it, Impact is a collective of many, many brands. So they work directly with bigger stores that you need to sign up for individually. So it's a little different from how the other networks work, because many times if you get approved with Commission Junction or ShareSale, if you reach a certain level, they will pre-approve you for many of the programs. And I hope this data here can help you diversify a little bit, because Amazon is a dangerous partner, because if you get all your income from Amazon and they slash the commissions as they've done a couple of times, your business sort of goes into the drain. So you need to diversify your affiliate income into different channels and into different programs and networks. So today we see even more folks moving away from affiliate marketing into a pure display ad-based model with just content that's not really pointing to any affiliate offers. I also come from the affiliate side of things. I had sites that were only affiliate with making more than 10 grand per month, and that's where I came from. So discovering display ads was a huge eye-opener for me, and that's also why I go heavily after those now. And I think the reason why, so I think there's two reasons why people move from affiliate and more heavily into display ads. First, it's easier. You can write about everything. And secondly, it just scales much, much better, because it's so hard to teach somebody to put in affiliate links creatively and make them work really well. So it's just easier to just produce a ton of content if you don't need to think about affiliate links. And also we do have these Google product review updates that makes it pretty hard to predict what the future looks like. So some of my sites has been hit sort of with some of these updates. And it's really weird because I don't have a lot of best X for Y, best cameras for kids or whatever. I don't have a lot of product reviews either. What's the best this or that? I don't really have that type of content. That's really just 5 or 10% of my articles. So I didn't really get why some of my articles got deranked. So I looked a little bit into this, and it seems like Google is broadening it out a little bit more. So I found something like, of course, best X for Y, but also something like X versus Y. Is this better than this brand, or this product better than this product? Or are X good for, or is X a good product? So I'd say every time you're trying to sell people onto something, if you're trying to get them to click a link, if that's the overall purpose of the article, Google will typically find that out. So it's also something like, are X better than Y, and something like that. So think about that. If you're not just helping people figuring out how to use or work with a product or how to do something, or if you're trying to sell them onto something, then you will probably be impacted by these product review updates. If not now, then in the future. That's what I see out in the future. So I think we should move even more into the informational and educational type content, where we just focus on the questions people have and eventually send them to an affiliate offer, of course, if it makes sense. But that's what I do now, and that's what I think we should focus even more on out in the future, because it's just getting so much harder to predict what's going on in the affiliate space. So the next thing I want to talk about is AI writers and AI writing tools. You probably saw my video about that I did a year ago. If not, there's a link in the description. And I was not really impressed with the quality I saw with these writers. So of course they can construct a pretty decent sentence, but the facts are always, I would say, are mostly just off or way out there. So you need to do a lot of fact checking, as we looked at in that video. But it's not like you can't use them. But I would say these AI writers has sort of given birth to something new. Like we see these answer sites that just try to answer everything with a little bit of AI generated content and just going after all the underserved topics out there, or really just any topic. That means they will also bounce into most of the underserved topics. So we've seen some auto-generated sites with just probably tens of thousands of pages of just answers to every question you could ask. So I think some clever programmers have just been scraping the people also ask, and the autocomplete just making these really long list of questions that they answer. So first, I think this is short-lived, and if you see this in your niche, I would say take advantage of it, because when you find a good site like this, and here's an example by the way, when you find a site like this that just ranks so quickly for so many keywords, try and decipher what they do, because they're pretty easy to outrank. Because obviously the content is not great. It's just some little snippet of AI text, and then they typically scoop in the next question and the next question that's not really that related to the reader. And something actually comes to mind now that I'm editing this video. Seeing how quickly a crappy site like this can rank for millions of keywords and get millions of traffic within a year or two just goes to show how many underserved topics there are still lying around, just looking for us to be found. We just need to keep looking, dive deeper. So that's just a little side note. So I've actually ended up on some of these sites when I was just Googling random stuff myself from a user perspective, and I didn't find them really helpful. Maybe I found a take or a question or answer to something, but nothing that led me to dive deeper into the topic. So what you could do is to take these sites and throw them into something like Ahrefs and just see what they rank for. That's some of the basic features we have in SEMrush and Ahrefs and these tools. See what they rank for, see what they rank number 1, 2, or 3 in your niche, and then go hard after these topics, because if they can rank for it, you can definitely beat them. So that's just another, we can say, source to look at besides forums and Quora and Reddit. Now also look at these answer sites and just go after the content that they rank for. So see it as an opportunity rather than a threat. And I would say at this point, I'm not using the AI writers. I don't allow my writers to use them. And I've just recruited a whole bunch of new writers. I've been doubling my writing team, which also means that I've been going over a lot of writing samples. So I've seen a lot of these AI writer texts. And I would say the easiest way to recognize and find out if somebody is using an AI writer. So you can do this of course, if you, like me, try to avoid them, but also if you want to use them and actually create some good content, be aware of 2 things. First of all, you should check all the facts. If it doesn't get checked from an AI writer, there'll just be some weird facts slipping through, like something that's super expensive costing $100 or something, just some really odd or weird fact. The other thing that these AI writers really struggle with at this point is repetitiveness. So they'll go over the same stuff again and again if you just let them ramble off for 1500 words. And just look for repeated phrases almost. They might change a few words, but you just see them use the same lingo over and over. So look at that if you're trying to spot it or if you're trying to correct your own articles using these AI writers. But as I said, I don't use them. I think I will start using them eventually, but I'm still waiting for them to get a little better. And also we recently saw Google saying that they don't really like it. And if they catch a site using it, they will derank it manually if they see that a site has heavily been produced with AI writing tools. And this makes a lot of sense because of course it's not great content if no human was really involved in the process. You need a good human eye and human editor to fix the errors before anything from these AI writing tools can be put on the web. So see it as a help as an editor or as a writing assistant. If you're not native English, it can be a great way to clean up some of the sentence structures and spelling and stuff. So use that together with Grammarly and just use your brain and check all the facts if you want to use these things. So looking out in the future, I do think these are the future somehow. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but I think you should start messing around with them and just see what they do and understand how this space is moving because it's moving pretty fast. But I'll let you know whenever I start using them and when I think they are just better and more helpful. But for my sites, I only use native English speakers. So they don't have problem with sentence structures and stuff. So I also want to talk about the cookie death of the cookie that has been postponed by Google into this year or who knows, maybe next year. But one thing is certain, we do look into a future where there's just less tracking using cookies. We'll probably see a birth of a whole range of other forms of tracking. But you can rest assured that Google will not lose a lot of sleep or income over this. And remember, Google is just the biggest ad network out there. They make all the living from ads. And a majority of this is based on what we call retargeting. So that's cookie tracking. That means that if somebody visited the e-commerce store here, they go to your site afterward, they'll probably see an ad from over here through Ezoic or AdFrive or Mediavine or whoever you're using. So those are the ads that make the most in terms of RPM. And it is a problem for the advertisers that they can't really target people that went to their website and show their ads after when they land on your site if they didn't make that purchase right away. So they want to get the user back to the site, of course, click the banner, get back and finish that purchase. So that's what we call retargeting. And that is something that we'll see go away. But think about this, it's not really a problem for us as publishers and bloggers. It's really a problem on the advertisers side of things because they lose some tracking. That's not really our problem, right? We just show the ads and they see how much money they make with that. So that might mean that the advertisers, let's say BMW, want to make the same amount of traffic to their site. They might need to advertise more to get the best customers back to their site because they can't do this tracking and see who visited our Facebook page or who visited all our brand pages and stuff like that and try to get those folks back and pay more for those. So they might end up paying more. And I just think that's more money into our pockets because it's not really our problem. So whenever you see somebody just ranting and really complaining about the cookie death, think first about who they are and whose side they are on. Are they on the advertiser's side or are they on the blogger's side? Because if they are looking at this from the advertiser's perspectives, this is horrible. I mean, this is not great to lose some tracking on how well your display ad campaigns are functioning and working and the results you can get with them. But for us, I don't really see this as a problem. And this is also something that I discussed with Sarah from Ezoic. And you should watch that video. I'll leave a link in the description because we talk a lot about this. And she actually shared my viewpoint that this could be a good thing for us as advertisers. Those were her first words before she asked me what I thought about it. And again, one thing is sure, we will not see less money being put into digital marketing. And as long as the bigger brands spend more money on digital advertising, that means that you and I will make more money with our sites. So as bloggers, we don't need to care too much about how their tracking works because we just need to make our websites available for them to advertise on, and then they need to stress and worry about how much tracking they have. So I don't think the death of these tracking cookies is a bad thing for us as bloggers. I think it can actually work to our advantage. So overall, we see way more competition, and that's definitely gonna go up and up as more players move into this. I know people who publish more than 1,000 blog posts per month, and we see some major players moving heavily into informational and educational content. So what you need to do now is educate yourself, get better at topic research. Join my community and my course if you want to learn how to do this properly. And also you need to produce better content if you're not focusing too much on content quality. Don't just pump content out there. You need to produce more and better content. So that's a good challenge and something that I'm working with. That's actually what I spend most of my time on. Working on the quality, educating my writers, finding new ways to create more engaging content and finding even more underserved topics and just scouting more for clusters and sub niches and new areas to dive into where there's just less competition. So do that and create a site and start building one site really big. That's what I would do right now. If you're new today, I wouldn't go out and start 3 blogs and try to grow them simultaneously. I would advise you to focus on one site and just get it bigger. That's not what I've always said, but right now and looking 2, 3, 4, 5 years into the future, I think it'll be really important to have one big site and to have more, we can call it domain authority or whatever, but just have a bigger site with more traffic and more links pointing to it. Because that means that you'll be able to compete better against all these other new sites that are rushing into this space. So remember, if we have like 5 times more competitors, you need to stand out above these. So in 3, 4, 5 years, you might not find as many underserved topics anymore. So by then you need to be able to compete in the bigger ranks. So continue building one site and get it up there to a level where you think in a couple of years you can actually compete against some of the smaller sites that you see right now. So that's what I would do. Focus, create better content, get better at topic research. Just build one great site and of course venture into other sites if you have the capacity for it or if you have that big site already. Leave all your ideas and what you think. If you have any concerns about the future of blogging, ask me in the comments and go and check those. There's always a really good dialogue in the comments and I love to see all your comments. I'll try to answer each and every one in this video here. Thanks.